You won't believe what they didn't teach you in history class. Forget kings, queens, and boring treaties. History is packed with bizarre, shocking, and downright hilarious moments that will completely change how you see the past. We're about to dive into 20 of the weirdest historical facts that were definitely left out of your textbooks. First up, imagine a world where crying too much could get you into trouble. In ancient Rome, they actually had a law for that. Funerals could get so dramatic, with professional mourners wailing and tearing their clothes, that the government stepped in. They passed laws limiting how many people could cry and how loud they could be. If your grief got a little too theatrical, you could actually face a fine. History actually recorded this. Roman authorities believed excessive mourning was a sign of weakness and a threat to public order. So next time you shed a tear, just be glad you're not in ancient Rome. Now, let's talk about ancient warfare. You've heard of catapults launching rocks and fire, but what about scorpions? Yes, you heard that right. Ancient armies, particularly those in Mesopotamia, had a truly terrifying form of biological warfare. They would stuff hundreds of live, angry scorpions into clay pots. These pots were then launched over enemy walls. When the pots shattered, a swarm of venomous arachnids would descend upon the terrified soldiers below. It was a weapon designed not just to injure, but to create pure, unadulterated panic. Think your minimalist apartment is trendy? The Spartans were way ahead of you. To maintain their famous discipline and austerity, they actually banned most forms of furniture. Their leader, Lycurgus, outlawed anything considered luxurious. That meant no comfortable beds, no fancy chairs, and no ornate tables. Spartans were expected to live a rough, simple life to keep them tough and ready for war. Forget interior design. For a Spartan, a hard floor and a thin cloak were all the comfort they needed. If scorpions in a pot weren't weird enough, how about monkeys on fire? Ancient Chinese military strategists came up with a fiery and frankly cruel tactic. During naval battles, they would capture monkeys, douse them in flammable oil, set them alight, and release them onto enemy ships. The terrified, burning animals would scramble all over the wooden vessels, spreading fire and chaos. It was a brutal but shockingly effective way to turn an enemy fleet into a floating inferno. In ancient Babylon, you'd better hope your builder knew what they were doing. The famous Code of Hammurabi laid out some of the strictest building regulations in history. It stated that if a builder constructed a house and it collapsed, killing the owner, the builder himself would be put to death. If it killed the owner's son, the builder's son would be executed. It was the ultimate form of accountability, ensuring that shoddy workmanship had the most severe consequences imaginable. Ever tried to call in sick to work? In ancient Egypt, the rules for late workers were unique. The men who built the pyramids and tombs in the Valley of the Kings had a system. If a worker was late or absent, they could be punished with a beating. But, and this is the incredible part, history recorded that before any punishment was dealt, the worker had to be given their daily ration of bread and beer. It was a bizarre feed them before you beat them policy, ensuring that even discipline didn't get in the way of their basic provisions. Let's move to a more modern, but no less strange event. Napoleon Bonaparte, the fearsome conqueror of Europe, was once attacked by a horde of bunnies. After signing a peace treaty, Napoleon suggested a rabbit hunt to celebrate. His chief of staff arranged it, gathering what he claimed were thousands of rabbits. But when the cages were opened, the bunnies didn't run away. Instead, they charged directly at Napoleon and his men. The swarm was so relentless, climbing up his legs, that the mighty emperor had to retreat to his carriage in a flustered panic. He was literally defeated by bunnies. Winning the lottery is a dream for most, but in some ancient societies, it was a death sentence. Certain cultures, particularly in parts of pre-Columbian America, had a ritualistic form of lottery. The winner wasn't given gold or riches. They were given the honor of being a human sacrifice to the gods. In these societies, being chosen was seen as a noble and sacred duty. It's a chilling reminder that one person's good fortune can be another's worst nightmare. If you think today's legal system is strange, wait until you hear about animal trials in the Middle Ages. History actually recorded this. Animals, from pigs and rats to weevils, could be formally charged with crimes, brought to court, and even assigned a lawyer. If found guilty, they faced punishments just like humans. Pigs were executed for attacking children, and swarms of insects were excommunicated by the church for destroying crops. They were treated as moral agents, fully responsible for their actions. Cleopatra, the legendary queen of Egypt, was famous for her beauty and her perfumes. But some of her signature scents had a deadly secret. Ancient texts reveal that her perfumers used a variety of exotic ingredients, some of which were highly toxic. Things like lead, hemlock, and belladonna were sometimes mixed into the fragrances. While they might have smelled divine, prolonged exposure could lead to poisoning, madness, or even death. It was beauty with a very dangerous price. Taxes are never popular, but the Roman Emperor Vespasian took it to a whole new level. He introduced a tax on urine. Public urinals in Rome collected vast amounts of it, which was then sold to tanneries and laundries. Urine contains ammonia, which was a valuable chemical for cleaning togas and processing leather. When Vespasian's son complained that the tax was disgusting, the emperor held a gold coin under his nose and famously said, "Pecunia non olet," money doesn't stink. Armies have declared war on nations, on ideologies, but only one has ever declared war on a bird. In 1932, Australia faced a crisis. A population of 20,000 emus was migrating and destroying farmland, so the military was called in. What followed was the Great Emu War. Soldiers armed with machine guns went out to face the birds. But the emus were fast, tough, and surprisingly good at guerrilla tactics. They scattered and dodged the bullets, and the army suffered a humiliating defeat. Australia officially lost a war against emus. In the brutal arenas of ancient Rome, gladiators fought for their lives. But not all fighters were created equal. Left-handed gladiators, known as scavi, were rare and highly feared. Most gladiators were trained to fight right-handed opponents, so a lefty's attack would come from an unexpected angle. This gave them a significant advantage, and audiences believed they were touched by luck. Promoters would even pair two lefties together for a truly unpredictable and chaotic spectacle. When you think of Vikings, you probably picture them raiding for gold and silver. But one of their most valuable trade goods was something far more exotic: walrus ivory. The tusks of walruses, which they called whale bone, were incredibly prized in Europe and the Middle East. They were carved into luxury items like chess pieces, jewelry, and crucifixes. For Vikings, a successful walrus hunt could be more profitable than raiding a monastery, proving their trade network was as impressive as their fighting skills. Imagine a sport where the losing team didn't just go home disappointed. They could be sacrificed. This was the reality of the ancient Mayan ball game known as pits. Played in grandstone courts, the game was a serious ritual with deep religious meaning. While the exact rules are still debated, historical carvings and texts show that the captain, or sometimes the entire losing team, could be ritually executed after the match. It was the highest stakes game in history, where the final score was literally a matter of life and death. Long before credit cards or digital payments, China invented a revolutionary concept: flying money. During the Tang Dynasty, trade grew so massive that carrying around huge quantities of heavy copper coins became impractical. So merchants began using paper documents, essentially certificates of deposit, called feiqian, or flying money. A merchant could deposit his coins in one city and receive a paper note, which could then be exchanged for cash in a distant city. It was the world's first form of paper currency, and it transformed global commerce. History isn't just battles and inventions. Sometimes it's just plain bizarre. In the summer of 1518, in the city of Strasbourg, a woman named Frau Trophia stepped into the street and began to dance. She didn't stop. Within a week, dozens of others had joined her. The dancing plague had begun. For over a month, hundreds of people danced uncontrollably in the streets, day and night. They weren't celebrating. They were in a trance-like state. Many died from heart attacks, strokes, and pure exhaustion. To this day, no one knows for sure what caused this surreal and deadly phenomenon. The medieval practice of bloodletting, or draining blood to cure illness, is weird enough, but they actually tried to automate it. Ingenious if misguided, inventors designed mechanical bloodletting machines. These devices used springs, gears, and multiple blades to make quick, precise incisions. Some were elaborate contraptions that a patient could operate on themselves. It was a bizarre intersection of early engineering and profoundly flawed medical theory, a machine designed to streamline a dangerous practice. Here's a fact that sounds like a movie plot. Before he was an emperor, a young Napoleon Bonaparte was once kidnapped by pirates. During an early military mission in the Mediterranean, his ship was captured by Barbary pirates. They held him and his crew for ransom. The pirates had no idea they had captured a man who would one day rule Europe. Napoleon's family eventually scraped together the money to free him, but the experience reportedly left him with a lifelong hatred of pirates. And finally, let's talk about breakups in the ancient world. In Mesopotamia, they had something akin to divorce certificates, but with some truly ridiculous rules detailed on clay tablets. Some of these legal documents outlined specific fines if a spouse uttered certain phrases. For example, a husband who said to his wife, "You are not my wife," had to pay a hefty fine. But if a wife said to her husband, "You are not my husband," the consequences were far more severe. She could be thrown into the river. It's a stark reminder that even thousands of years ago, relationship drama was complicated and apparently highly regulated. From bunny attacks to dancing plagues, history is so much stranger than you ever imagined. The past isn't just a collection of dates. It's a treasure trove of incredible, unbelievable, and sometimes terrifying human stories. The next time you think history is boring, just remember, it's full of scorpion bombs, animal trials, and emperors who taxed pee. And that's something you definitely didn't learn in school. Thanks a ton for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share it with your friends. Your support means the world to us and helps us create more awesome content.